So we've heard from Shushanta Talukdar and Abhijit Dev, and they've actually given us a general sense of how complex elections in Assam can be, because it's just not about one issue. There are ethnicities, there are issues, there's a sense of belongingness to a certain party. There is also the religious polarization that's happening in the different parts of the state. So it's not just about one or the two issues here. There are so many different things. And in this year, especially after the passing of the Citizenship Amendment Act, after the bringing of the NRC, things have become that much more complex. Now, let us just go back to a survey to show how people have actually reacted to the different issues that we've asked them. Let me just show you what the different issues were. So you see some of the issues, and this was very open-ended. We did not provide them options, just to let you all know. This was very open-ended. We asked respondents in the different parts of the state to tell us what they felt were the issues that most affected them. And therefore, based on the issues that affected them, they actually voted for A party or B party or an alliance, or they did not vote for anyone. So you see here, a great majority of the respondents are saying that they voted on the issue of the CAA. Then we have the other issue that comes next to the CAA. The two issues are development and employment and jobs. The other one, which actually comes in there, not too far behind, is religion and religious politics, which Abhijit mentioned, and Shushanta just took us through how he thinks about religious polarization impacting the electoral process in Assam. And then you have the other issues in terms of identities. There is education, there's health, there's infiltration, which is pretty less, interestingly, corruption. But look at CA, look at the other issues like development and employment. And this is how generally voters seem to have voted, at least in the large part of the state. And therefore, I think this will decide on who really goes to the seat of power in Dispur. Now, let's look at how elections have unfolded in the different phases and how it all looks like for the different parties that are there. So the district-wise breakup of trends, and we are going to look at this in a phased manner as the elections happened in Assam. So in the first phase, and this is the sample from the sample survey that we've done, and also Shushanta and Abhijit, it's also from the sense that we get from the ground by talking to people, our people in our network, our reporters and journalist friends, the way they have studied the behavior of voters. And it shows that in the 47 seats that went to the polls in the first phase, the BJP Plus seems to be in the lead, therefore they are on top, followed by the Congress. And like you've mentioned, the regional parties are there, but they are at the bottom still now, especially the AGP and the Raichur Dal. This is how the trend looks like. To again take us through how this will eventually look like, I would like to bring in Abhijit first to tell us what has been his experience while reporting during the election and the last few days when people have already started to talk about who will take 30 or 35 plus seats in the first phase.
Look, Dak, as your survey showed, two issues. CA will be an issue, and there is also another. It's followed by development. I think in Upper Assam there is a groundswell of movement between against CA. There is no two-way about it. There are anti-CA pockets. Anti-CA protest. It was the epicenter of anti-CA protest, and people are really against it. But for BJP, the game changer in this elections could be all these direct beneficiary schemes, cash transfer schemes. I think the one they have launched just 2 months ahead of elections is Arundoy scheme. It nearly targets around 17 to 18 lakh families, and the total number of if you look at the target audience for that, it comes to around 1 crore people. this kind of cash benefit transfer scheme, just 2-3 months before of elections, they can have their impact, with people, basically, if you talk about Upper Assam, and the population distribution, there if you look at the class structures, or different level of class structures, in Upper Assam, this kind of schemes for if because since I'm just going back to again and again to Upper Assam, because we are talking about this first phase, which is very crucial. So for BJP, they are facing problems with anti-CA, CA supporter, anti-CA supporters, and all that. And another problem for BJP, if I talk specifically, is also a rebellion within the ranks among the party workers. There are a lot of new faces that have been brought in, like Ajanta Niyog, and many are there. Who have been brought in the last moment, and which has angered, and there is some sort of rebellion among ranks in Upper Assam in different areas,
Right.
because few of them are many BJP grassroots workers are of the opinion that they stood with the party during difficult times, during CA times, supporting CA. And now, those people who are against the CA, they have shifted loyalties. They have come to BJP and got the tickets. So
Okay.
there is
Can I
also
just to stop you there, just to stop you there, I will bring you back in again. But so just to understand, so you were saying, one, of course, the schemes are there, the Arunodhoy, the other schemes, these have definitely been beneficial. There's been development, we cannot ignore that. I mean, that's been one of the things that the NDA or the BJP has been taking to the people, and people have responded to the development that's there. At the same time, you were saying that there is also the rebellion because new faces have been brought in from other parties. Seasoned politician members of the BJP have not liked that. So these are definitely, one contradicts the other, but these are reality. And the other reality is also, just to mention, then to give it back to you, and then Shushanta can maybe come in and explain this for us, is also the coming together of the AIUDF and the Congress, which actually we know will not go down very well with the people of Upper Assam, particularly, and people that vote along certain sentiments and certain religious lines, let's put it that way. Yes, Abhijit, please.
Yes, look, I think yes, there was certainly an advantage BJP when Congress and AIUDF came together for alliance in Assam, especially in Upper Assam. But I have an inkling doubt, BJP. I think they have done too much with the Ajmal factor, talking most of the time, making this election as an Ajmal centric election, and this kind of in fact, this kind of election campaigning surrounding Ajmal, and the fear factor with Ajmal. If Ajmal going to be the chairman, Ajmal rises in Assam politics, and what will be the impact? I think this people have taken it with much more of a pinch of a salt. I think
Okay.
BJP in Upper Assam has not spoken much of development, development issues, what they have done, and that has, I think, gone that might act as a negative factor, as a negative factor for BJP.
Interesting that you're mentioning
at a
this.
certain point, I think they have overdone things with
Yeah.
Ajmal. I don't know
Interesting
what
that-
Sushanta thinks. I think
Yeah, interesting that you're mentioning this. Just to, before I bring in Shushanta, just to add to that, what you're saying in terms, BJP has not spoken about their development, which they have done. They have played up the Ajmal factor more than they should have, actually. But at the same time, we also know there are other realities, and the one reality that you see in front of you is that the trends show, and this is an overall trend, that the BJP, probably BJP plus, or the BJP on its own, will do better than the other parties in phase one in Upper Assam. Shushanta, your take.
Yeah, BJP and the which anyway is going to do better than other parties in the first place. There's no doubt about it. But then we are concerned. Maybe we will have to look at it how much. I mean, in what strength, and what will be the final number. That will be important. The number that they are going to secure the more than the other parties, the other really opposition alliance, it's more or less it's clear.
Again,
But
can
then,
I again please provoke you to put a number there?
Yeah. No, I'll not stick my neck out just 2 days before the actual poll count, and because I don't have access to the minds of the voters. But what I am looking at with the your survey results reflects also the poll talk discourse. Like the NTCA is not only the only narrative, poll narrative. Asmal is not the only narrative in the poll narrative. There is also the employment and the development is significantly. One issue is missing is here is the problem of the tea garden workers.
Tea garden. I was going to talk about that. Thankfully, you mentioned. Yes.
Yeah. So that in the beginning, I saw that it almost 59% of your respondents belong to the age group 18 to 30 years. And for these young voters who has a sizable percentage in this election and are going to play a crucial role, for them, the unemployment and price rise, development, all these are also equally important issues. So a lot of the electoral mandate will be based on these other issues as well. So what you have your survey or the exit poll showing that BJP at the top of these three combinations, that is a possibility, but that doesn't help. Even if being at the top, it may not help the BJP if it doesn't get enough number, at least more than 30 plus seats. No, and then the opposite is right. BJP has overdone this Asmal factor, because the moment the BPF joined the ruling opposition alliance, Grand Alliance, perception started changing, and also for many voters, they could not relate to campaign of the BJP on ground, because in the first phase, AIDF did not contest a single seat, and in mostly I'm talking about the Eastern Assam and the Northern Assam districts. No? It didn't contest a single seat. So Asmal was not seen as a player in the election rallies or in the electioneering. So the opposite is right. Probably the overplaying the Asmal factor, the fear over Asmal's rise in politics may have a fatigue with the electorates, the electoral electioneering fatigue. That's why they probably had shifted to other issues of the tea garden wages, then the unemployment, and then the CA is already there, development. But yes, I agree with the opposite that DBT, direct benefit transfer, in terms of the development issues, as well as, and the one drawback in this sample I saw is that less number of female respondents, 15.2. But then BJP also targeted the women voters through the women self-help groups, and a lot of schemes being targeting the women, the electorates. So that probably was missing in this the overall response. So
absolutely,
you have to factor in that.
I wish we had more female respondents, but because we have kept it that way. But you're right. I would just, before we move on to the other phases, both of you, and just in terms of the tea voters, the tea garden voters, where do you think those votes would have gone? One, and number two, who do you think, or where do you think would you place the AJP, the Assam Jatiya Parishad, and the Rajya Dal in the first phase? Abhijit, you can take that first.
Look, if you talk about the tea voters, national parties are here at play. As suppose it will be BJP or Congress. For AGP, if you're talking about Assam Jatiya Parishad, right?
Yes, the Assam Jatiya Parishad. Yeah.
Look, tea voters doesn't just really sync with the regional parties in Assam, because it doesn't have that Jatiyatavad thing. I'm talking about that subnational power, So for them, for regional parties, T voters are not very important in Assam. And, I'm not saying they are not important, but they are not really connected with the
But in terms of
regional parties.
numbers,
In terms of
how
numbers,
many seats do you see for AJP or the Rajya Dal?
no, in T belt you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about for phase one.
Oh, phase one. But this is again difficult to get into any numbers, but I think numbers will be minimum, but the main reason, the main factor they share, because these two parties, these two debutant parties, just ahead of the polls. I think many politicians, many analysts has just written them off, and they can be real surprise package in this elections, not in terms of winning seats, but in terms of taking the vote share.
All right.
As I said earlier, NTCA, if you take an issue of NTCA, both these parties were born out of this NTCA movement. But what Congress did, Congress came and tried to hijack the issue from them. So,
right.
in fact, taking a clear-cut stand on on
Right.
CA.
So we
But
got yeah.
but
Sorry.
what needs to be,
Yeah.
that chunk of anti-CA voters, if it gets divided between these three parties, who is going to benefit? In normal parlance, if you look at, if this vote three, if anti-CA votes gets divided between the three, then in that sense BJP will be a gainer.
Right.
But BJP's vote, how much BJP's vote goes as an anti-CA vote to this party also matters.
True.
So it's
How much BJP
very
votes?
tricky situation.
True. How much BJP votes
Yeah.
therefore go as anti-CA votes, I think will matter. But very quickly, we will have to move on to the other phases. But Sushanta, very quickly, if in terms of numbers, again, I know you don't want to do numbers, but for the AJP and for the Rajya Dal in the first phase, just tell us, where do you see these two parties will be?
I think even I agree with you, Abhijit. I mean, even though it may not be important number-wise, but their percentage of votes to be taken away by these two debating parties is going to reflect on the outcome of both the alliance ruling and the opposition alliance.
So importantly, the percentage, what you're saying, the percentage of votes that these two parties will take away will actually make an impact eventually. Okay, let's get to the second phase and the third phase. Now coming to the second phase, and from again the trends that we have based on a survey, and also again from the sense that we get from the ground, the total number of constituencies there 39, and we see that the Congress and its allies, the AIUDF and the other parties have done better in the second phase. The BJP probably is a close second, the BJP plus that is, and then the others are there. So this is how the breakup of the second phase really looks like from the trends we are getting. Abhijit, your take.
I think I think Sushant can throw some light on the central Assam. I think I will, because I am not too aware about the ground realities of that. I will focus on Barak Valley, because and in second phase Barak Valley also went to polls, and I think of the 15 seats which Congress won 8 seats last time, I think, sorry, BJP won 8 seats last time. This time around, with AUDF and Congress joining hands, the results will be different. And BJP, BJP's last, I don't think BJP will repeat their last performance. There will be lesser seats. Congress, AIDF will do good, better than their earlier 2016. So here, Grand Alliance in Barak Valley is advantage. It's an advantage for Grand Alliance in Barak Valley.
Advantage Grand Alliance in Barak Valley looks like looks like advantage Grand Alliance in the in central and western Assam, or the seats that have gone to polls in the second phase. Sushanta, advantage Grand Alliance in the second phase?
Yes, it appears it looks like because of the old arithmetic and the demography. So I think the Congress, the plus, and it was in the last 2016 also. They had, I think they had the more numbers out of out of 39 seats, the
yes.
and they had around 12.
12.
seats.
BJP had around 12. So I think in the second phase, the Congress, the Grand Alliance will have advantage.
So as of now, it looks pretty clear, at least second phase, everybody is saying that Congress, Grand Alliance on top. Let's see what really happens. Let's look at what the third phase is saying. Total number of seats here, 40, I guess, 40, and we're seeing that there is not a clear picture here where the BJP, the NDA, the BJP plus the NDA and the Grand Alliance, they seem to be in a neck and neck contest in the third phase. That's the kind of trend we are getting. The AIDF is actually coming in pretty close, and this is all separate. Congress here and not in alliance, and the AIDF separately taken, the BJP taken in with an alliance, and you have the other parties that are there. Sushanta, what does this look like to you?
I think it reflects the ground situation. I mean, if there's likely to be a polarization in the third phase, and then polarization on both sides. So one polarization is going to trigger the other polarization. Then, so the other issues of development and then the price rise will probably be kept aside, has been kept aside by the electorates. But then again, the silent votes, as in the first phase, will play a critical role in the final phase. That is where both the Congress and the BJP has to both the parties have to worry. So it's not clear. The silent votes even in the third phase, in which party they are, which alliance they are benefiting. So that's where both the alliance have kept their fingers crossed. So it's not. That's why you hear probably it has shown both the BJP and the Congress being at the top, sharing the top slot, followed by and also we also have to factor the BPF and the UPPL. They are the major players in the third phase. That has to be factored in.
So since you have mentioned the BPL and the UPPL, maybe you can just spend some time to sort of tell our viewers, how do you understand the BTC region? And given the election results we have had in the BTC election, where actually the UPPL has done pretty well, although the BPF emerged as the single largest party, in the assembly election, where do you see the BPF and where do you see the UPPL?
See, in BTD areas where the seats are coterminous with some of the non-BTC areas, in the 12 assembly seats that are spread over the BTD region, it's now BTR, Borderland Territorial Region. That in BTR region, the elections to the BTC, Border Territorial Council, BPF could come out with single largest party and retain its dominance in two districts, Kokrajhar and Serang, and also in parts in Udalguri and other district. Plus, the demography is such that the BPF is likely to be benefited from the alliance with the Congress and AIDF in this Mahajot.
And would you say the BPF will still stick with the Mahajot after the election? That's what a lot of people talked about before the election, and people are still talking about this now. When we are going towards a government formation, I'm sure that those will be interesting.
Yeah, no, in politics, it's very difficult. I mean, everything can happen, anything. I mean, one party with one alliance or formation can shift to other, the elected representatives shift to other parties. That anything can happen. But what I see is BJP will prefer more with the UPPL, sticking with the UPPL, because excuse me, UPPL has given the space for the BJP to grow in BTR region. But the BPF will never give this space either to the Congress or to the BJP to politically grow, electorally grow in the BTR region. That's why the BJP will probably find EPPL a more reliable and more beneficial ally than the BPF. But then in the numbers game, we don't know. Finally, at the time of formation of the government, anything can happen.
Exactly. So the BJP will need the numbers. I know BJP finds a preferable ally in UPPL because then it also gets the space to make its presence in the BTR region. And I think that's very important for the BJP as a party, and why not? But Abhijit, where would you look at the UPPL insofar as this election is concerned? Are you giving them any number beyond 4 or 5 seats, or are you giving them lesser numbers?
Look, again, this number game, it's just 2 days before results. It's dangerous to out and set the number.
So everyone is playing. Everyone is playing at the back foot. Everyone is playing on the safer side.
No, that we are not psephologists. We are journalists.
True,
so
absolutely.
We can't go wrong with the numbers.
Absolutely.
Savages have that luxury, can go wrong with the numbers.
True.
But anyways, yes, EPPL rise in borderline politics in BTC elections is a talking point. But how much they will rise in state elections, that needs to be seen. I think tables in borderline politics have turned very fast and very swiftly. And if you talk about EPPL's campaign in this elections, they were completely dependent on their big brother BJP. They rode the ship, and they decided the course of their campaigning, selection of candidates. It's an open secret. On the other hand, BPF is a wounded tiger. I'm telling you, Hagrama is a wounded tiger. He has given his
That's a very good way of putting it. He's a wounded tiger. He could strike. He could actually. We don't know. It's very unpredictable.
You don't know. He may be the surprise package of this of election. So he has given his everything in this campaign. Going all out, joining hands with the Grand Alliance, supporting Grand Alliance candidates in different areas where there is no BPF candidates also. So in a sense, he played around a question of Bodo pride, and I think if this plays well in Bodoland, Hagrama could laugh away. All the on the May 2 could have the last laugh. You never know.
All right, we got that. Fine. So he could have the last laugh. Now let's see who will have the last laugh insofar as becoming the chief minister of the state is concerned. Now this is again what the trend is saying, and it is very interesting, and I will show you this. And this really looks very fascinating. So I think you can see this is what we have from our responses. 45.2% people are saying they prefer Mr. Gaurav Gogoi to become the chief minister. And like you saw, our respondents are essentially very young, 19 to 30, 30 to 45 and upwards. Most of them are saying 45%. The next is none, that is 19.7%. And the third is Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma with 16.2%. And finally, we have Sarvananda Sonowal at 14.7%. So what do you think of these trends? It's interesting that people are thinking about a young man like Gaurav Gogoi, why not, to become the chief minister? But let's see from you guys to understand, what do you think? Are these wishful thinking, or do you think this is possible? Shushanta.
Yeah, because I think it reflects the sample respondent age group. Because Gaurav Gogoi, as a parliamentarian, he has struck chord with the young voters, and because you have conducted this survey online, so those who take interest in politics on online platforms, they will also be because the other performers only Ripun Bora is the parliamentarian, but the priorities with Ripun Bora versus the Gaurav Gogoi, and then they certainly will not be equating they probably have kept Gaurav Gogoi out of the other the names, Sabananda Sonowal or Himanta Biswa Sarma. Had it been had Gaurav Gogoi been not in the picture, probably they would the opinion might have been reflected. So I think it's this reflection is all has to talk about the sample respondents. They are being measured, the respondents being, and then again, like it's, I mean, it's not easy for us to say which alliance is going to form the government. So,
but at least
that depends. And Sabananda Sonowal and Himanta Biswa Sarma's name appearing as likely contender for the chief ministers in the event of BJP coming to power.
Right.
So they have reflected a choice. So even in the young respondents, probably the Himanta Biswa Sarma's struck chord more with the young the group. So that probably has reflected in the percentage in Sonowal and Sarma. But then the issue probably hasn't yet been settled yet.
Right.
And then
so I think it's because the issue hasn't been settled. Sorry, just to cut you there. I don't want to cut you there, but just because this issue has not been settled, I guess, so therefore Gaurav Gogoi emerges as a good alternative. And why not? And it's a young India, it's a young Assam, and a lot of young voters want to express their mind. Probably they want to see a change in a young person who can lead the state. We don't know which alliance is coming to power, but this is just to give an idea of how people think in terms of who leaders should be. Abhijit, if you could sort of take us through this, what do you feel? Do you think this reflects the mind of the young people, and is it good for the state?
Look, it reflects the mind of the young people. Since Sushanta said your respondent is in the age group of 30, so they have basically, because Gaurav Gogoi as a parliamentarian has shown his caliber, you know, is a very good speaker, and I mean, politically in parliament also he is the deputy leader of Congress. So he is risen about the ranks very fast, and very credible face of Congress. He is emerging as a very credible face of Congress. But yes, if you look in the overall thing, I don't think these numbers will hold. You know, if in different age groups and about very different equations in Assam. But your numbers say, in fact, I think of Mr. Sonowal. Mr. Sonowal is not being preferred too much as a CM. If you look at the numbers, you know, it's I think 6.2.
He is he's in the third place. I mean, if looking at this graph, he's in the fourth place actually. Yes.
So it's on the fourth place. So yes, he is the incumbent CM. You know how BJP takes it. That's a $1 million question. You know, they say there are no fights between for a chief ministerial candidate. That remains to be seen. And Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma is also he has also polled a lot many votes. Other than I think 19.7% among the young groups, young age groups. So that's also a good thing for him, and he's normally, we all know that there is a tough fight between two of them to.
So since you're mentioning, sorry Abhijit, just to ask you this question here, and towards the end of this discussion, the exit poll, and as we look at our trends, we will finally look at the overall trend. But just since you've mentioned, and I would like Shanta also to step in here, the fight between the two big guys in the BJP. We've been talking about this, we all know it, but when we talk to Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma, he seems to be saying, no, this is all imagination. When we talk to Mr. Sonowal, he just smiles at you and he says almost nothing. What do you think? Is the fight a real fight? And if BJP is to form the government with its allies, do you see Sonowal as the chief minister, or do you see Himanta Biswa as the chief minister?
Yeah, who? Me?
Yeah, Shanta, you can take this.
So probably they will first have to settle the numbers around the power centers. Who's get the, I mean, this election for the BJP will also witness the candidates being divided, or the list of candidates also reflected the clash of the power. So I think they will have to balance it if in the event the BJP the alliance is able to retain power, then probably they will have to look at the numbers around the two power centers to decide the final choice of chief minister. That probably they have kept it open, and that's why they say that it's going to be decided by the parliamentary vote.
But if Mr. Sonowal becomes the chief minister, do you think Mr. Himanta Biswa will still be part of this government, or do you see him going somewhere, going to maybe Delhi, or do you see him in a different role?
No, I think he might get on a post of deputy chief minister with the portfolios like home, finance, and all.
I
So
see.
that could be a problem. That could be a problem.
Abhijit, do you agree with what Sushanta has said, or do you see it differently?
No, this is more or less. I agree with Sushanta in this. It's a open. It's a fight after fight. You can say it's an election after election. So yes, who will be both of Mr. Sonowal and Himanta will be equated by central leadership. How well they cobble up the number magic figure of 64. Whether Mr. Sonowal gets much more numbers on the table, or maybe Mr. Himanta Biswa, in case BJP falling short of numbers, that will decide the fate of Assam. In fact, that will decide who will occupy the hot seat, and that's a big that's pretty sure. And the second fact is that yes, going ahead, if BJP wins as predicted, with what the party has predicted, I think Sonowal will be the CM. There won't be any two way about it. And I think Himanta will be given many portfolios, to pacify him in a sense, to make him go as a deputy chief ministership and all that. But the real scenario emerges, and I will tell you, it's an election after elections. When the results will out, we'll be waiting for another result. That is, will be the CM of Assam. If the numbers are not in BJP's favor, then it will be a real game again. And among both of them, whoever will be able to cobble up numbers, he will occupy the hot seat.
So eventually, you're saying it will come to cobbling up the numbers, and whoever knows the game plan will be the game changer.
Yeah, right. You put it very well.
All right. So just finally, let's just also not forget to discuss Kamrup Metropolitan, the 4 important seats, because we are in Guwahati, and so you have Guwahati East, Guwahati West, you have Dispur, and you have Jalukbari. How do you see the results in these 4? I think it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward, but still, there's been contest. I tell you, even for the Guwahati East seat, a lot of people are already giving maybe the verdict to Mr. Siddhartha Bhattacharya, but I'll tell you, the Congress candidate Ashima Bordoloi has put up a good fight. Similarly, in Guwahati, maybe Guwahati West, you never know. So what are your predictions, and where do you see these 2 seats and the 4 seats that we are speaking about here in Central Assam?
No, Guwahati East, as you said, I think Congress, if you talk about Congress, you are forgetting another name is AGP, is Adip Kumar Phukon. He has put up a good fight.
Absolutely. Yes.
True. Look, the anti-BJP, in Guwahati, it's an urban center. It's a development. People, there is a logical conclusions on what people vote. They basically vote on development and all that. I think the current MLA faces a lot of anti-incumbency. It was there, but I think in fact anti votes against BJP, or against BJP got divided into AGP and Congress. I think that will help BJP's candidate, Mr. Siddhartha Bhattacharya, much more. because the vote which got divided between AGP and Congress, and anyways he was on a he was contesting the election on an advantage point. And I think East Guwahati, it will be BJP. I mean, it is most likely to be a BJP seat. West Guwahati, yes, again on the last moment, Meera Bhottakur pitched in. She was a good candidate, a good worshipful speaker, but I think it was too late. Congress has done it too late, and I think she has campaigned in her own way. But still, I think AGP is the Mr. Kalita is a sitting MLA from where? Narendra Narayan, Mr. I think if I am right on the name, Mr. Narendra Narayan Kalita.
Ramendra Narayan
Kalita. Ramendra Narayan Kalita. He is a old hat in politics in West Guwahati, and he has a sizable traditional voters. His vote bank is there.
Right.
So possibly whatever the anti-incumbency issues he faced, despite Congress giving candidates here so late, and has worked in his favor. So from West
So we can't write him off. We cannot write off Mr. Kalita. He is still a force to reckon with.
I am not writing. I am giving him. I am saying that he is also in an advantageous position to win the elections here.
Okay, so we'll not talk about Jalukbari. Let's say it's a given. Let us also not talk about Dispur, but to Guwahati East and Guwahati West. Sushanta, your take, please. And do you see it like what Abhijit has just mentioned, or do you see it differently?
I think the silent votes in both the constituencies is going to make the poll battle tough, even in these two seats. Primarily because the presence of the two regional parties and the factor the NTICA and all these factors also falling equally for these the urban seats. I think the contest is going to be close.
So you're saying silent voters, since you mentioned this, and so silent voters across the state, particularly let's say here in Central Assam, in Upper Assam, and in the Eastern Assam, the Western and Eastern Assam, silent voters will make a difference everywhere.
True.
I want to make one small,
yeah, please.
I want to make a small silent voters. These silent voters, there will be two types of silent voters, one in Upper Assam and one in Lower Assam. In Upper Assam, it will be anti-caste silent voters, which we are banking on. In Lower Assam, it will be BJP's direct benefit schemes voters, like Arunodaya scheme, whoever has got benefited. Because in Lower Assam, there are people who are really on the lower Echolian of graph in terms of their incomes and all that. So in Lower Assam, you have the silent voters, who have got who benefited through in the scheme. How they react when they go to vote, that will be crucial. That will be crucial for a grand alliance, because in Lower Assam it's been looked as their bastion. In Upper Assam, if you look at, there are silent voters centering around NTCA. If NTCA vote goes to these parties, so that might be a game changer. So both silent voters, there will be I think there will be two types of silent voters in this time. One is based on NTCA, and one is based on that beneficial scheme silent voters.
So two types of silent voters, one silent and one maybe not so silent. So DVT, right?
But in Guwahati, in urban Guwahati seats, the 4 Guwahati seats, I think that beneficiary scheme is not going to be hyper. So the silent votes, if it has happened, it's going to be around the issues of car and employment, and also the price rise. Price rise is a factor.
Right.
So
Price rise, in fact, was an issue that we had responses on price rise, but price rise, I think, was blended sometimes with the development, because it impacts so many other different sectors. So yes, price rise, I think, is an important issue, and we cannot ignore that this was an issue that really came in close to the election, and it impacted people cutting across different segments of the society. Now, before we end, just to ask, so AGP, finally, let's not forget the AGP, one of our oldest parties that came out of the Assam movement. We see how the AGP has functioned over the years, how the AGP has been treated by different parties over the years, and today where the AGP is, and the founder of one of the founder members of the AGP, Mr. Prafullo Kumar Mahanta, who's not in the party and who's on his own literally. Are you riding off the AGP? I mean, at least in this election, we don't know what their numbers will be, but of course it will be reducing from what we understand. Sushanta, where would you put the AGP, at least insofar as the present election is concerned?
Yeah, as far as the number is concerned, because AGP is also a part of the ruling alliance Mitrojot, so the BJP will also try to land its way to win the seats, so the number is not going to reflect. But organizationally and electoral, the influence wise, the AGP is going to be weaker, and its place is going to be taken over by the new the party AGP.
But do you think the AGP will increase its numbers from the 2016 election, or is it going
unlikely? Then the increase in the numbers will be unlikely. I think the numbers will be less, but may not be that low as it was initially apprehended, because that when it contests as a ruling alliance, then the transfer of votes in many constituencies that was ensured by the BJP, I believe.
So the ruling alliance will help the AGP to at least maybe retain the number of seats, or let's say not really show up a poor performance that many were anticipating the AGP to have actually done at the end of the day. But I think we still cannot really write off the AGP, because it's a party that has been in the position of power. It is with the ruling alliance. So therefore, AGP is definitely an important factor insofar as Assam politics is concerned. Final word from Abhijit and Sushanta very quickly. Let's start with Sushanta. Sushanta, your take overall, what are you seeing on the 2nd of May? And what are you going to write about just before the results are finally declared, or just after the results are declared?
Because I'll always prefer writing just after the results. So we'll have to watch, but then I think it will be, it's likely to be a photo finish, and very close, it looks like. But I will factor in the third force. They will eventually decide which way the number is tilted.
Sushanta has been, I think, since the beginning, very interestingly, has been stressing on the third force, and which is very important, because we cannot write off the third force. They are making their debut, and who knows, they could actually do well. And like you said, even if they don't get the seats, they will split the votes. Abhijit, your final take, and would you say that we are going towards a hung assembly?
Oh, it will be a cliffhanger. That's means just like that. I mean, whether we are going towards hung assembly, yes, not too much. I don't think we are going towards a hung assembly. Any of the Mahajot or Mitrajot will form the government. So I don't see there is any chance of any hung assembly out here. Yes, there will be thoda jor tor hoga, jor mar hoga, yahan pe wahan jayega. So, but in a sense, it will be a fight. It will be a very close fight. We will see a very close fight, and as Sushanta says, it will be a photo finish. One factor to look out for is, I say the performance of this new parties. How they do. AGP, Rajat Dal, they probably could emerge as a third force and a very strong force if you have a situation of a hung assembly. I mean, if there is a situation, if there is a close contest, so we need to look out for that. And secondly, another thing, we also look out. There are a lot of much of talk about that resurgent Congress in Assam. In 6 months back, they are completely written off, and then they came back, resurgent Congress, and how many seats Congress gets, on its own, that will also decide the course of this election. It's one point to be seen. On their own, Congress, I think last time won 26 seats. If this time Congress can touch its figure of 40, I think they are on their way to form them, and there will be a much more comfortable position with their partners to touch the magic number of 64. So that needs to be seen, and overall, if as I said, it will be like a Sylvester Stallone movie called Cliffhanger. It looks like so.
So a Sylvester Stallone cliffhanger-like outcome. What better way to really end this discussion with our experts? Everybody likes a cliffhanger, all right. But at the end of the day, I think we need a stable assembly. We need a stable government, because we are in extraordinary times, and only a stable, good government can give good governance.
Also strong opposition. And also a strong opposition.
There's also a strong
Also a very strong opposition. So well said. Because then and then only can we actually move forward, tackle all the challenges that are in front of us, and see whether we can overcome this problem together. So our experts, thank you so much. And we will look at the trends again, and we hope that whatever the trends, we will see a government in place, even if it is a cliffhanger. But like Abhijit says, a jor tor or a jor more, whatever it is, I hope it's not at the cost of people and the current situation that we are faced with. So on that note, I would like to again thank you and wish you all best of luck. Stay safe, stay protected. Everyone stay protected. And most importantly, follow the Election Commission guidelines. Do not venture out. Do not go for an election outcome or an election result procession when the results, because those processions are not allowed. The guidelines are very important. And this is for your safety and for everyone else's safety. So thank you again. And we hope to see that we once again have a government after the 2nd of May in the state of Assam. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vidhan. Thank you.
Thank you.